US-China talks grab attention at a major summit in Southeast Asia. How will US President Donald Trump get along with Japan's new Prime Minister when they meet? Taiwan food vendors struggle to cope as African swine fever prompts 10 more days of bans on pork products. Plus, a group of young people work to restore some local icons of Penghu Island. Welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yvonne Young. Heads of state from Southeast Asia and beyond are gathering in Malaysia for the ASEAN Summit. The Southeast Asian bloc has much to celebrate, from a peace agreement between Thailand and Cambodia to the induction of a new member, Timor-Leste. But as John Van Trieste reports, it's US-China trade talks on the sidelines that are gaining much of the attention.
Host Malaysia rolls out the red carpet for dignitaries from around the world for a second time this year. This is the second of 2025 summits, bringing together the members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. But the list of guests goes well beyond the bloc. Non-members from the US and China to Brazil and South Africa have sent their own VIPs too. There's been progress since the bloc's last meeting in May. Just back in July, Cambodia and Thailand were firing at each other across their contested border, killing at least 48 people. But now they've signed an enhanced ceasefire deal, along with US President Donald Trump, whose intervention helped stop the fighting. It's already having an impact, with Cambodia withdrawing weapons from the Thai border Sunday. And the two countries' prime ministers are optimistic.
Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a historic moment, profound significance for Cambodia and Thailand. A day that reaffirms our shared conviction that peace is always possible when nations have the courage and wisdom to pursue it together.
This declaration reflects our will to resolve differences peacefully, in full respect of sovereignty and territorial integrity. This declaration, if fully implemented, will provide the building blocks for a lasting peace. But more importantly, it will begin the process of mending our ties.
As of Sunday, ASEAN also has a new member, Timor-Leste. Southeast Asia's poorest and youngest country gained independence in 2002, and accession to ASEAN has taken over a decade. The country's prime minister says it's a big moment for the country's 1.4 million people.
For the people of Timor-Leste, this is not only a dream realized, but a powerful affirmation of our journey. One marked by resilience, determination, and hope.
It's the US-China talks happening on the sidelines, though, that have grabbed the world's attention. Trump looks to be in high spirits as the two sides hammer out a framework of a trade deal, a possible de-escalation in what's been a punishing trade war. That's ahead of a meeting Trump's scheduled to have with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea later this week.
The president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls, so I think we have averted that. We also agreed on substantial agriculture purchases for U.S. farmers. We agreed that the Chinese would begin to help us with the precursor chemicals for this terrible fentanyl epidemic that's ravaging our country.
双方的讨论包括众多的议题，比如双方各有关注的出口管制议题、对等关税、进一步更长时间展期问题、芬太尼关税和芬太尼禁毒合作问题。
Absent in the talks was any mention of Taiwan, one of the sore points in US-China relations. China claims Taiwan and says it will use force to take it if need be. Though it's still possible Taiwan could come up in the Trump-Xi meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the country won't be a bargaining chip in talks that are really about trade. The ASEAN Summit ends Tuesday, but there's still more to come from Trump's whirlwind week of diplomacy in Asia, with the region and global markets watching for what may come next. Ryan Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
President Trump has now arrived in Japan, where he's set to meet with new Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae on Tuesday as part of his East Asia tour. And to find out what to expect from their talks, our reporter Larry Isiano spoke to Cai Xixun, a Japan politics expert at Danjiang University.
Trump and Takaichi will be meeting for the first time on Tuesday. What challenges do you think Takaichi will face in balancing the U.S.-Japan relationship alongside regional concerns?
我们看一下Takaichi的话，虽然说明天会见到川普，可是他们早已经在做功课了。还有一个是在政策上面的准备，因为在10月24日我们讲的所信表明演说，就是一个 speech 里面，Takaichi首相已经讲到，本来是在2027年防卫费要拉到2%。但是他们认为，就是必须要在今年就会拉到2%，所以川普还没有开口之前，日方先做了这一个动作。
We've heard about Takaichi's stance on Taiwan, and we've heard reports that Trump may bring up Taiwan in conversations with China at APEC this week. But what role do you think Taiwan will play in discussions between the two leaders?
因为我们知道日方他现在看到的就是美中一个 competition， 或是我们的 rival relationship。所以日方的话，它会跟台湾结合在一块。那高市的话，因为跟台湾也就在安全保障上面结合在一块，所以等于是日本把台湾视为同治国。那日方大致上跟台湾，虽然我们没有跟日方有一个 diplomatic relationship， 可是的话，我们算是一个命运共同体，也就是在 Self Defense Force 日本他们做好他的角色，台湾做好我们的一个角色，所以台湾会跟日本角色会很像。那角色会很像的话，这也是我猜美国想要乐意去看到的。所以只要川普在台湾上面讲，我们 respect 台湾，不要让步很多，这也算是川普一个很大的一张 card。
That was Professor Cai Xixun of Danjiang University. Taiwan has expressed serious concern after Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong reaffirmed his country's support for the One China policy in opposition to Taiwan independence. Wong made those remarks during a meeting with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, who was on an official visit to the city-state. In response, Taiwan's foreign ministry urged Singapore to respect the country's sovereignty and to avoid comments that could hurt bilateral ties. Taiwan's defense ministry says Beijing is spreading propaganda after Chinese state media released videos of warplanes flying near the country. The Weibo account of China's state television shared an undated video of H-6K bombers and J-10 fighter jets practicing confrontation drills over what it said was Taiwan. Taiwan defense officials say the video is propaganda meant to psychologically intimidate Taiwan. The ministry says it continues to monitor and respond to Chinese incursions in the air and waters around the country. Officials in Taiwan say they are ready to take down an alleged Chinese app that promotes unification, if it even exists. Videos shared on social media platforms have shown an app called Return Home that allegedly lets Taiwanese nationals surrender and apply for Chinese IDs. The app claims to have 28,000 Taiwan users who can earn points by joining and inviting others to join. However, the Mainland Affairs Council, which handles relations with China, says the app cannot be found on any app stores in either Taiwan or China. Officials warn these posts mirror standard Chinese disinformation tactics aimed at Taiwanese citizens. Restaurants and shopkeepers are bracing for losses and possible closures as pork supplies dwindle. Authorities have extended a ban on pig slaughter and transport for another 10 days to contain African swine fever after confirming the country's first case. Ai Chi reports.
This food market in the southern city of Kaohsiung is practically shut down, one victim of African swine fever cases that's jeopardizing Taiwan's pork supply. The only store here with pork still in stock only has a 3-day supply left.
礼拜五那天他临时公布的
So African swine fever isn't a threat to human health, it is fatal in pigs. A news that hogs at a Taichung farm tested positive on October 21st has led to a call and ban on the slaughter and transport of live pigs, originally for 5 days, but now extended for 10 more. Genetic sequencing shows the disease got into Taiwan by way of Vietnam, but while investigators worry about how the disease got to Taiwan, businesses want to know what comes next and how they're going to make ends meet. From grilled meat and sausage to steamed buns and dumplings, pork is a staple of Taiwanese cuisine.
说5天禁运，我们就有一点危机意识，所以我们就会找其他的之前没有配合过的协力厂商来谈这个价钱。
昨天突然又宣布说要停尸10天的话，店面的肉包都剩下很少了，已经几乎都快没了啦。
Some vendors say foreign pork isn't an acceptable substitute. In recent years, U.S. pork imports in particular have been controversial due to the prevalence of a feed additive bans in Taiwan. And some vendors say foreign pork, wherever it comes from, just doesn't taste the same.
本土猪肉好吃，我们不可能用国外的猪，用国外的猪肉是会有味道，那个老客人都会马上吃出来。
For some, this leaves few choices, none of them good. The Agriculture Ministry said Monday that the disease hasn't spread beyond the farm in central Taiwan, where it was first reported. But the ministry says it's still too early for Taiwan to let its guard down. Luffy Lee, John Ventrias, and I Chief for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus News because coming up after the break, an indigenous group in Taiwan is one step closer to official recognition after a new law took effect last week, but the move is not without controversy.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
Wow. This is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?
How does Taiwan stay on the forefront of innovation? In a world of uncertain tariffs, wars, and shifting geopolitics. Get answers and more. From award-winning programs to exclusive Mandarin dramas. Download the TaiwanPlus app to any device today. No ads, no bias, just facts. TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Taipei is pushing back against an op-ed published by China's ambassador to the UK, which says Taiwan has never been a country. A Telegraph op-ed by Zheng Zeguang repeats Beijing's claims that a UN Security Council resolution proves Taiwan is part of China. Zheng called on the UK to, quote, stand firm on the issue, calling it key to China-UK relations. In response, the British Foreign Office cited its long-held policy that cross-strait issues must be settled peacefully and said there has been no change in its stance on Taiwan. Taiwan's representative office in London also rejected the statements while thanking the UK for stressing the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The diplomatic row comes amid rising UK-China tensions over a recent spy case and a controversial plan for a new sprawling Chinese embassy in London. For more on how the Chinese ambassador's op-ed could affect UK-China relations, reporter Chris Gorin spoke to Grace Sargent from the Council on Geostrategy in London.
So, Gray, the Telegraph has published an op-ed from the Chinese ambassador to the UK, where he says, in part, that Taiwan has never been a country and the UK should accept that position. What exactly is the Chinese ambassador trying to accomplish here, and why publish this now?
What he's trying to do is present Beijing as a defender of the post-World War international order, and in doing so, try and perhaps contrast China with the United States, who it would like to present as a force disrupting the world system. He's basically saying that the international order and the One China principle are one and the same thing. Why now? That's an interesting question. Well, we are marking the 80th anniversary of the Second World War. So it's only natural that Beijing wants to use this occasion to reinforce its claims to Taiwan.
You've written in the past that the UK's position has always been that Taiwan's political status is undetermined, but has refrained from saying so since the 1970s. And you say that in future, a clarification from the UK may be needed. But why? Hasn't the status quo worked relatively well, at least for Britain, for many decades?
So Britain for a long time maintained that Taiwan's status was undetermined, that it wasn't, as Beijing claims, a province of China. The status quo has worked quite well for everybody concerned. Peace has been maintained across the straits for a long time now, but Beijing doesn't seem so comfortable with maintaining the status quo, as in fact trying to alter it itself. If countries around the world buy China's one China principle, it's going to make opposing any unilateral action taken by Beijing across the straits very difficult. So it's about laying the groundwork and about establishing the rules around cross-strait relations.
In the op-ed, the Chinese ambassador says that accepting Beijing's position on Taiwan is key to the development of China-UK relations. Some have taken that to be a demand of sorts from China. Do you see it that way?
It certainly is a demand. The problem for UK-China relations, from at least Beijing's perspective, is that the UK does not agree with Beijing's claims. It has already last year in the UK Parliament clarified that it believes that Resolution 2758 made no determination on Taiwan's status. So if Beijing wants to push this further and keep on repeating its claims, unfortunately it will find that when push comes to shove, Britain will have to speak out and say something different.
This op-ed comes amid several other tensions between China and the UK. There's been protests over this so-called mega embassy that China wants to build in London, a Chinese spying case that was recently dropped, now this op-ed. Keir Starmer, your country's prime minister, has said that he seeks steadier relations with China. Does this complicate things for him?
I think the questions around national security, the alleged spy-in, the mega embassy are going to be bigger issues for Keir Starmer. I don't think that currently Taiwan throws too many problems in the UK-China relationship. Actually, we've seen in the past year UK-Taiwan relations improving steadily, and that hasn't, it appears, been too detrimental to relations between London and Beijing. I think the problems will come if China keeps on pushing its one China principle and insisting that the UK subscribe to beliefs that it does not believe in. If Beijing simply let the matter lie, then the British government may well say nothing.
That was Grace Sargent from the Council on Geostrategy. More people in Taiwan will now have the chance to be recognized as indigenous. That's after the legislature recently passed a bill opening the door for them to apply for recognition. But some are warning that a new law could spark more division than unity. Irene Ling reports.
我们现在来唱一首新港社喜来亚新港社的歌谣。好，Gatomana。
Uma Taravan is at the forefront of the fight for Siraya cultural revival in Tainan in Taiwan South. They're one of the largest Penghu Plains indigenous groups in Taiwan, and her family has been fighting a decades-long battle for legal recognition. The Penghu are lowland indigenous peoples who were gradually absorbed into Han culture, leading to a loss of their distinct identities, and they're not officially recognized as indigenous. But that may now change, after Taiwan passed a special act giving the Penghu a legal definition and allowing individual groups to apply for recognition.
大法官也给了我们3个认定的指标，包含了要有文化的特征，要有族群的认同，而且也要有客观的历史记录可稽。那这些要件跟指标都必须以法律做明确的规范，必须要用比较宽松的标准。好，因为他们确实在殖民的历史中是第一波遭到外来殖民集团影响的台湾原住民族，所以他们在语言或者文化上面跟其他族群这个汉化的过程中，文化的变异当然会比较大。
The legal changes follow a landmark 2022 Constitutional Court ruling that said all Austronesian-speaking peoples beyond Taiwan's 16 recognized indigenous groups should be allowed to identify as indigenous. For the nearly 1 million Penghu people, the ruling was a major step toward recognition. That's because they had assimilated into mainstream society, and colonial authorities had separated them from other indigenous groups that were able to maintain their culture and way of life. But Uma Talavan is worried that it could end up creating division among Penghu peoples.
个人的身份跟民族的集体的这个民族的这个认定，民族的核定绑在一起的时候，那在这部法之下，我们是叫做平埔原住民族群的第一族、第二族、第三族的族吗？或者是我们是原住民族的第17族、18族？因为律师也很忧心，西雅族将来是不是一个独立的一个所谓的西拉雅族这样子？对，然后我们没有在身份法里面，那我们的身份到底又是什么？是在这一部专法里面的一个身份。
Legal recognition is about more than just having an official title. Under current laws, the 16 recognized indigenous groups are granted special rights, like the ability to hunt and own reserve land, and preferential treatment in college admissions. None of those benefits are included in the new law for Penghu peoples.
所以我们还是会希望说，就是照现在的原基法下去修。或者去多数是直接去适用这样子，可是显然的，现在的主张里面这一条就变成没有共识。他们其实是站在要如何去让原有的原住民族没有受到任何的影响之下，所以他们会去这样子做主张。当然，他们也会说我是为平埔族群好，可是我想。这都有他们自己作为一个本位主义的一个先后的优先的顺序。
Extending those benefits to the Penghu would mean amending more than 300 articles in the indigenous people's basic law, a move that could force the more than 600,000 recognized indigenous people to share already limited resources.
那你人口增加多少，你就应该等比例的去增加相应的一些权利和资源。可是到目前为止，国家都完全没有承诺。所以对于现在法定原住民族而言的话呢，当然平埔族亲的这个兄弟姐妹们可能会有点抱怨我们法定原住民。可是你从某个角度来看的话呢，国家都没有这样的一个承诺。家里就是那么大，硬要塞，假设真的塞个多2、3层甚至1倍的人进来，那个住得下吗？
The Council of Indigenous People says distributing benefits and resources should focus on what each indigenous group actually needs.
这是原住民保留地，就是山地原住民部落的地。平埔族为什么现在可以去买？我们会觉得这合理吗？所以，并不是所谓的不把他们加入原住民族基本法，而是他们的需求是什么，我们就应该给他们什么样的需求。
And those questions about what each group needs today are deeply tied to how different groups were impacted throughout Taiwan's colonial history.
这个某种程度已经被这个殖民政权搞到啊，明明是一家人，可是有2个不同的历史记忆，老一辈还是有那个记忆存在哦。那大家都会那边讲说，之前那个汉人在欺负我们的时候啊，你是站在他们那边的，这个你要交代一下。
The new law has given the legislature 3 years to grant the Penghu the resources they need, a deadline that may force lawmakers to speed up the process. Regardless of what happens next, the Penghu people still have a long road ahead of them to achieve full recognition. Yvonne Chen and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
The Penghu Islands off Taiwan's west coast are home to many fish weirs, stone enclosures in the sea that bring in fish with each tide. But with modern industrial fishing and the island's shrinking populations, many of them have fallen into disuse and disrepair. Now a group of young islanders is relearning the art of fixing them up. Eric Gao has the story.
Here in the Penghu Islands in the middle of the Taiwan Strait, there's a long tradition of carefully stacking heavy stones like these in the sea to form fish traps. Called stone weirs, the tides carry fish into them, ready for the islanders to catch. They're tough to build, but good at what they do, taking the hassle out of getting fish from the sea.
玄武岩
好重，但是也是蛮聪明的。他们都是利用那个涨潮的时候，把很多那个大石头都搬起来了。
But while they're an important part of the island's culture, and some even attract tourists, many have been left to fall apart as modern fishing fleets make them obsolete, and young people leave Penghu for school and work on the main island of Taiwan. But there's a group of young people here in Penghu who have decided to turn this trend around with their own hands. They've set up a training program that teaches people how to maintain these stone enclosures, a cultural preservation project.
它只要一直办下去，这个人力就会一直流动。我很想要看到那个愿景实现的那个阶段，可是它必须要用很长的时间跟不同的方式方法，还有资源的引注去行动。
It's a tough battle keeping all the island's many weirs in shape, but this group of locals are determined to keep the knowledge of how to do it alive. Devin Tsai, John Van Trieste, and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has secured more medals at the 2025 Asian Youth Games in Bahrain. The athletics team won 1 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze on Sunday, with Wang Chenyu triumphing in the men's 3,000 meters in just over 8.5 minutes. This marks Taiwan's 4th gold medal overall and the athletic team's 3rd. Meanwhile, in Taekwondo, Zhou Yijun nabbed bronze in the women's 63-kilogram category after being defeated by her Chinese opponent Guo Ruyue. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before you go, check out these inflatable sculptures of famous characters at Hong Kong's Victoria Harbor. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.